Okay, hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss a simple program on how to calculate that average of an array element. Yesterday, in the last lecture, we discussed three basic things related to array. One is the declaration of array. Second is how to store that array elements, and third one is how to print that array elements. So today we will try to write the code to calculate the average of an array element. So basically we have decided to take that array size from user and array elements from that user. So for that, let me consider the few variable having a data type of integer. To take that array size, let me consider that n variable. To use that control loop structure, here I consider that I variable. Then to calculate the sum, I just use that the sum variable which is assigned to 0. Then to calculate that average value, that our avg is a one variable and one array. As we don't know what the size the user will be entered, so for that let me consider that the maximum size of an array. So maximum user can enter the value of n should be 100. So to take the size of an array from that user, we have to give the message to that user, and that message should be like this: enter the size of an array. Okay. Then definitely the user can enter that the size. We have to store that size in a variable n. So for that, %d, comma, ampersand n. Okay. Then we have to give the message to that user to print that many number of elements. So that message I want to type it here, and that message is like this: enter %d elements of an array. Okay. Then definitely that user will enter uh, that element, and that elements are nothing but n. So %d will print that value of the n. Then this code will be to store that array element. So as you know that we have to use that control loop structure, which will start from 0, I less than n, maximum size will be n, and every time that value of I will be incremented by 1. Then I use that this for loop to store that the value of an element. So here I use that scanf function which will store that array element. So %d, comma, ampersand arr of I. If you want to print that array element, then we can use that also, the same code, just in place of scanf we have to use it to print it. Now I use that one message to that user: array elements are. So this message will be clear to that user. So here this code is for printing of array elements. Okay. Then once again I use that for loop which will start from 0, I less than n, I plus plus. Every time that value of I will be incremented. This is the body of for loop, and here I use that printf. Let me purposefully give that the space before the %d so that it will separate that any two elements, comma, and I say that array of I. Then as we want to calculate that average, but before that we have to calculate the summation of all array elements. And now for that purpose, I will try to write the code summation of array elements. So that code is, once again we will do the summation one by one. So as you know that index is always starts from 0, maximum value would be n minus 1 I plus plus, okay, and then in that I can write sum is equal to sum plus arr of I. So initially we assign that value of sum is equal to 0. Now this sum variable, after completion of this for loop, that sum will contain the final addition of all array elements, and then we have to calculate its average by using that formula avg is equal to as you know that average, it may be the float value, so I say that float sum divided by n value. Okay, but for that, one thing we have to do it here, we have to take that average variable is of float data type. I say that float avg, and while printing that average value also we have to use that percent f. Let me write it here. Here I can write slash n average of an array is equal to percent f comma avg. Is it okay? So here our program is finished. Hope that you are understood this part. Let me compile. Okay, 0 error. Let me try to run. Now size of an array, suppose I consider that it's a 5. So next message you will observe here, enter 5 elements of an array. Suppose let me type it 1 2 3 4 and then 5. Either you can give the space in between any two elements, or you can use that enter key. So here you will observe that array elements are what the array elements you are type it means user has typed it, that same array elements are observed here, and it's a average value. So the basic thing is that before calculation of average value we have to calculate that summation. That storing and the printing part, it's common, but the summation of an array element and then its average. But while calculating that average, here I use the typecasting part, because that average value it's never be integer value at every time. For that purpose we have to use its data type as a float. Okay, so hope that you are understood this part. If you have that any query, then you can type me the message on my WhatsApp number.